thank you for coming. You're at the Small Business Festival LinkedIn for You and Your Business event. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge RMIT University short courses for making this venue available to us. And I'm going to give you some tips right at the end about how you can actually say thank you for this fantastic free opportunity that you've got. Because I think it's really, really important that we say thank you. For those of you, have any of you come to this event last year as part of the Small Business Festival on LinkedIn? Fantastic. Well, even if you were here, it's a completely different presentation last year. I got up early this morning, completely inspired. When you've been training since 1987, you get sick of saying the same stuff over and over again. So what you have to do is work out new and better ways that it's going to make it much more interesting for both me as the trainer as well as you as the participant. So I keep changing things around. I keep learning. I go to between 1 and 4 events per week to keep myself up to date. And during August, Small Business Festival month is crazy. So, you know, I feel like I've been running this marathon now because on the 23rd of February this year, I launched my first book, which is 120 Ways to Achieve Purpose with LinkedIn. I'm actually one of the first 80,000 people in the world on LinkedIn. I joined on the 21st of December 2003. So this is 80,000 words and 8 years of consulting, training, practice, all in one book about LinkedIn. Then in May, I launched my second book, another 80,000 words, this time on attracting the right career or business. And then last Tuesday, I launched my third one, which is about how to market your business locally. And believe it or not, I still want to keep writing, but I think next time I'm not doing non-fiction. It's a bit boring. You know, you've got to try and remember what you said and what you didn't say and when you're going to say next and so on. So I've got a few poems that I've written, and I'm thinking about doing something just slightly more different for my next publication. But you'll always see me writing something. I'm regularly putting up articles and regularly get asked to write articles. But obviously here today, we're here for LinkedIn for you and your business. And because I go to so many events and because I've been training for so long, I absolutely hate it when you go to an event and you just get a sales spiel and you don't come away with any information. So I'm going to try and pack in as much information as I can in the 90 minutes, but I want this also to be a networking opportunity for you because up to 85% of business is still done by referral. So you can have a fantastic LinkedIn profile, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get business out of it. So it's a key component of it, but definitely not the only component. So as I said, I'm an experienced trainer. I classify myself as a learning junkie because I like learning so much and it's so valuable to me. I'm a consultant in practice. I'm a member of the Australian Institute of Management, Australian Human Resources Institute, Melbourne Press Club, Australian Society of Authors, and the Career Development Association of Australia. And I'm planning to become a member of the Australian Publishers Association now that I've, created a publishing business. I'm independent of LinkedIn, so I'm not paid by LinkedIn. I've given them 2 copies of my book. I've sent it to the US. I've done all sorts of things, but I can't seem to get them to realise how important it is for you guys to have a good quality LinkedIn profile. But anyway, I'll continue because I know the value of LinkedIn, and I've got enormous value out of it. For any of you who've sneaked in without registering but want the details from the audio, the video, and that's why it takes me a while to set up because I like to record it so other people can use it, as well as a connection request on LinkedIn, please just leave your details with me and I'll make sure you get the goodie bag at the end. So what am I going to cram in today? Well, first of all, what is LinkedIn and what you should do before you start? This particular session I've also designed as a precursor to a LinkedIn masterclass for professionals that I'm running here at RMIT on the 7th of October. And that's a 4-hour workshop, so we'll actually be diving deep and working on the LinkedIn profiles on that day. I want to help you understand the concept of databases, algorithms and signals because all of that information is relevant to any social media, online platform or website that you operate. So, for example, I also teach at the Centre for Adult Education and I teach how to create a simple WordPress website there. So we do a lot of stuff around understanding what's actually happening in the online world. A number of people have told me, well, it's great that you tell me the good behaviour, but what's the bad behaviour? So I'm including that in today's session. Also a little bit on personal branding, your business branding, finding out how you can measure your return on investment. If we've got any time, I'll take questions and also some upcoming events and, as I said before, how to say thank you. So LinkedIn basically started out as a professional network or a network for professionals. And and originally launched on the 5th of May 2003 in San Francisco. About 450 million members. It was originally just the network. It's acquired a number of other enterprises, including Pulse, so that helped to generate a news feed, and it's become more of a publishing platform. It's also acquired lynda.com, which is online training, Connectify, which is a browser tool that amalgamates all social profiles and puts it on the screen at once, so really, really handy tool for recruiters. They've also acquired other bits and pieces along the way, and you may have heard that Microsoft acquired LinkedIn earlier this year, so that's going to possibly change the dynamic. But I can't see LinkedIn disappearing anytime soon. They've got an amazing amount of intellectual property that they've managed to be able to keep really within their network, and most of us are lazy and apathetic. I'm an ex-banker, you know, we found out that most people open a bank account when they start work and pretty much stay with the same bank forever after. And I can imagine most of you don't want to start creating, you know, millions of other online profiles, particularly when there's not a good quantity of other contacts on those platforms, whereas there is a huge amount of contacts on LinkedIn. That said, as much as a fan I am of LinkedIn, I don't use LinkedIn exclusively for my business and personal opportunities. So don't assume that, you know, LinkedIn is the silver bullet, but definitely it's a very important part of my overall business strategy. LinkedIn has also said that they're going to be moving to a business-to-business platform in the future. So what they're trying to do is encourage more engagement on LinkedIn and encourage you to spend more time on LinkedIn so that they can obviously do more business transactions. Good morning. Please take a flower and a chocolate if you wish.
Thank you.
There's around 8 million members in Australia, which is about half of how many members are on Facebook, but around 50% of them or more are earning over $100,000 a year. And one of the fastest growing demographics is students. So, you know, if you've got kids, even year 10 onwards, get them on LinkedIn. They need to connect with their school friends, start documenting their part-time work, etc., joining professional associations and what have you. And also, you know, I really value a lot of the things that LinkedIn enables me to do. So if someone Googles my name, my LinkedIn profile comes up. It's one of the first things. In fact, when I created my own exact match domain name, Ellson.com, it took me 6 months to get that above LinkedIn in Google search results because it's so well optimised for your name. But if you want to know some more reasons, you can click on that link. And as I said, I'll be making sure that if you've registered for this event, you get a copy of these slides, the audio and the video. So, before you start, so for those of you who are here right now, these are the sorts of things that I recommend that you do before you start doing any edits of your LinkedIn profile. So obviously, has anybody not got a profile at the moment? There's a couple of you. All right, well, this is going to be mega knowledge for you today. So you might like to sit, you know, next to somebody who does have a LinkedIn profile. But I'll just quickly demonstrate these. Once you've signed in, I always encourage you to check how many views you've had in the last 90 days. I encourage you to save your profile to PDF so that you've got a backup soft copy of it, and also that you export your connections. In the unlikely event that LinkedIn goes poof overnight, or you do something bad and they delete your profile. And believe you me, as many members as there are on LinkedIn, nearly as many of that have actually been deleted from the platform. So they have very sophisticated algorithms to detect bad behaviour and eliminate your profile if you're naughty. So let me show you what I mean. First of all, as a general rule, I use Google Chrome to access LinkedIn. And second of all, I change my settings within Google Chrome to make sure that it asks me, so if you just go down to Advanced Settings, it will say, ask where to save each file before downloading. So I just tick that little box to make sure that, you know, it asks me where I'm going to save my files before I download them. So, first thing is, from my homepage, I click here and see how many people have viewed me in the last day, and I've had 941 views in the last 90 days. Anyone beat that? No? Okay. I'm not expecting you to. And there's a guy I know in Adelaide who has over 2,000 views per 90 days who doesn't get any business out of it. So it's not just about views, it's about conversions. You know, I'm interested in doing business that works and makes time. So I've had 941 views. It's gone up by 50 views, you know, very quickly, because last night I announced that I am starting work at RMIT And of course that notified everybody that I've got this new job at RMIT, and so all these people have been checking me out and contacting me. So if you get a new job, make sure your profile looks good, because heaps of people are going to start looking at it. All right? But also, my favourite activity on LinkedIn is to do what I call reverse stalking. Are any of these people in the room at the moment? No? Oh, well, this is my favourite activity because it tells me whether my LinkedIn profile is working for me or not. So, do I know any of these people? Well, there are 3 first connections. Oh yeah, that guy, he messaged me this morning, Greg Ward, because he does LinkedIn profiles as well. You're on there? Well done. Yes, so I can check that out and know that somebody's been here this morning. So, and I get really excited when I see my clients because I know they're doing their homework, so it's a really good clue as to whether my profile's working for me and achieving the results that I'm looking for. So I regularly check that out, but I encourage you to write down that statistic of how many views you've had in the last 90 days, because once you update your profile, there's a very good chance it's going to go up. And it's a real-time statistic only, so if you don't write it down, it's going to disappear. So that's why I encourage you to keep a record of it. Now the next thing I'm going to suggest that you do before you do any edits to your profile is save it as it exists. So when I'm working with individual clients, and they go home and they think, I really hate what Sue did, they can always go back to what they had before. And you can do this on anybody's profile you like. So if you want to print out somebody else's profile, borrow a couple of ideas, you can definitely do that by visiting their profile, clicking on this down arrow and choosing Save to PDF. And because I have already said, ask me where to save my file before it downloads, it pops up and says I can download it. So what I do is I put the date back to front, 16/08/30, and I put dashes between my, 16. I put dashes between my words because I do websites. Google looks at words that are separated by dashes. So I have this format for my file names all the time to put every file name with dashes in between rather than spaces or underscores. And then LinkedIn. So I'll just save it on the desktop for now, but that's as quick and easy as it is to save a profile to PDF, print it out, keep a record, whatever. And the third thing I suggest that you do is export all of your connections. So LinkedIn obviously doesn't give you direct access to all of the information for all of your connections at once, but you can export. So you click on connections and then you click on the cog on the right hand side and then you choose export LinkedIn connections, and regardless of whether you've got a Mac or a PC, you would always choose Microsoft Outlook CSV file because that means it can open in Excel and you can see the first name, last name, email address, current job title and current company for all of your connections. So that's a really handy thing. You can just press export, go through security code, save it, etc. So that way you can use it as a list if you're wanting to follow up with people, if you're wanting to add them to your mailing list after you've got permission, of course. It gives you a nice list and a record. And again, in the unlikely event that LinkedIn either goes poof or deletes your profile, you've got a backup copy of the people that you are connected to. There's no way on earth I could remember. Let's see how many connections I've got now. Not showing it. Sometimes they show it on the screen, sometimes they don't. This is the joy of working at 8,994 connections. So there's no way I'd remember that many people. So obviously it's better if I export it into a spreadsheet. The last thing that I suggest that you do before you start updating your profile is turn off your notifications over here, notify your network. There used to be a book running in Melbourne, which CEO is going to get the sack, and it was all based on they started updating their LinkedIn profiles. So, if you're about to get the sack, update your profile, then announce that you've done some changes. Don't tell everybody all that information before it happens. You can look a bit desperate. So, that's those. All right. Good morning. Let's take a flyer. Take a seat. It's also on page 34 of my book. So the main message that I talk about when I help people with their LinkedIn profile is there's absolutely no point trying to work out what to put in your LinkedIn profile unless you're very clear on your purpose. What is it you actually want to achieve from your LinkedIn profile? And then what you have to do is you have to create it around the computer experience, how you're going to make the computer find you, either Google or LinkedIn. And then when the Google or LinkedIn finds you, what is the user experience? So if I'm looking at your profile, how am I going to feel? What am I going to do as a result of looking at it? And once you've got it sort of working to your optimum level, you then determine what strategy and tactics you're going to use from there on. So are you going to follow companies? Are you going to post regularly? Are you going to like, comment or share? Are you going to participate in groups? Are you going to connect to more people? Are you going to contact people? Are you going to follow up with people? They're all your strategy and tactics that you do after you've created your profile to be found within the computer experience and making sure that if somebody's reading it, it's a good experience for them as well. So, first exercise. On the back of your flyers, you've got some spare space, and I'd like you to write down 12 words that you want to be found for in search results. All right, so think about what you do in your professional life and your business, and I want those 12 words with the first words being the most important. So if I'm looking for you, what would I be typing into the search results? And I'm going to give you a quick clue. I spoke at the CDAA conference 2 years ago in Adelaide, and there was a whole bunch of people that I was already connected to, and they offer professional advice around selecting the right career. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, if I was just average Joe off the street, what would I type into search query to find somebody who could help me with my career? So I typed in the word career counsellor, and not one of those people turned up in my search results. And the reason none of them turned up in my search results was because they all called themselves career development practitioners, which is what the industry knows them as, but not what their target audience knows them as. So now if I type in career counsellor Adelaide, they all pop up. But you need to think about the 12 words that are most likely to describe you if somebody was typing it in and looking for you or your business. Then I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to put a smile on your face and walk up to someone silently and give them that piece of paper, right? Then I want that person to read those words. Now please, don't take offence at what anybody says. They didn't mean it, right? There was no intention to make you angry when you came here this morning. So their feedback is just their feedback and their experience of those words. So please don't take it all to heart that they're some expert and they've given a fantastic analysis. So I just want you to smile at them and give them your 12 words. And I want the person that you do that to actually describe what they might have been thinking if they had typed in those words. Does that make sense? Because we're assuming that the other person was looking for you and they typed those words into the search query. So you've got to write your 12 words first, then you've got to go up to someone else, smile at them and give them the list. They read the list and then they describe to you what they think you do. Okay? Anybody who hasn't got a piece of paper to write on? Or didn't get the flyer when they came in? Yep. Feel free to take a flyer and chocolate. We're just doing an exercise at the moment where you write down the 12 words that describe what you do. Then what I want you to do is go up to somebody else, smile at them, give them the sheet of paper, and then they're going to explain to you what they think you mean by that, and vice versa, you'll give them the feedback on theirs. You nearly done on the 12 words? But you know what you do. But you know what your target audience is looking for.
Are we writing traits or nouns or...
You've got to think about, if I was looking for what you do, what words would I be typing into a search query? Now, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. We've only got an hour and a half, so we don't want to take too long on this. It's not an existential or psychological exercise. right, anybody ready to go and smile at someone yet? Not to say anything, you've only got to smile at them and give them the words. And vice versa, you get their words. You've only got 6 words, that's fine. Let's get started. Come up with some words. That's enough. I can see you're chatting off.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Would anybody like to share the difference between reality and perception on the words versus what the actual person does in that instance? Anybody like to share that with the rest of the group? Yes?
Just from discussing with this lady beside me, I sort of found that the perception of words could mean one thing in her industry, but for the general public, what does that encapsulate?
Yes.
And it's sort of in layman's terms, like what would that mean? And I had no idea.
Yes.
But when she broke it down, thinking, okay, then it just needs to be simplified.
Yes.
Rather than sort of having a fancy title, no disrespect.
Yes.
You know, it's just something that needs to be simplified, that a word can have a meaning, and it's sometimes like the word design. I mean, that's quite ambiguous.
Very broad.
It's very broad, but at
Yeah.
least designers, we sort of know what it means, design. Whereas if you're saying
UX,
or
CX.
or something like that, it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, what does that really mean? And is
Yeah,
it specified for
absolutely.
me?
Yeah. So if I was a recruiter and I was looking for a customer experience professional, I'd probably put in the search query CX or UX, user experience, because they're the abbreviations for it. So if you don't have those keywords in your headline, I'm not going to find you. It's as simple as that. So, and on the other hand, if it's a person off the street, your ideal client, they're thinking they want a new design. They don't think they want a new user experience, you know, so you'd have to put the word design in. So it's very different. Anybody else have a comment from that exercise?
Yeah, just gave you clarity on thinking about what you're actually trying to market.
Correct.
And the purpose.
Yes.
So just be really
It's all
concise.
dependent on purpose. I mean, if you're not clear on what your purpose is and who you want to be reading your profile, you're wasting your time. You know, it's going to just go round and round in circles. You're not going to get reviews. Do you have anything else?
I was going to say, it was interesting for me, I work in the technology space, and
Yes.
one of the things I do is train people how to use Android devices, but I just got asked what Android is, and I just assumed that everyone knows what the different operating systems for phones are.
Yeah.
But, so that was an interesting one. So.
Yeah, so you should say mobile phone, for example. So I run the iPhone course at the CAE, and there was people come along with Android phones because they thought, well, I've got an iPhone. They just thought an iPhone was a mobile phone. They didn't realise that an Android was a different mobile phone. So yeah, really interesting. All right, we'll keep moving on. Obviously, the reason I wanted you to do that exercise is to really get you focused on what it is you do and who you serve. Because databases is what we're looking at here. LinkedIn, as I often say, is just a dumb, stupid database, right? That's all it is. But it's a bit more sophisticated than that. So if you want to be found within a database, you've got to remember that your keywords have to be in there. Your keywords for your industry, your keywords for your target audience. You also have to have those keywords frequently. So by getting you to write 12 words, you can have about 120 characters in your headline, which is straight underneath your name. But if you have it in that spot and then in other locations all throughout your profile, the database is much more likely to bring you up in search results because it's in there frequently. You've also got to make sure you've completed all the fields. So some CEOs think, oh yes, I know LinkedIn, but I don't need to fill it in. You know, why do I need to explain all my experience? You know, I've had 35 years of management, blah, blah, blah. But if it's not completed, it's not in the database. So I'm not going to know the background, what industries you've worked in, what other areas. What are the priority fields? So in order of priority, it's headline first, current job title second, third is past job title, fourth is education, fifth is summary, sixth is experience. So that's the priority order of where it's going to be. But the number one priority is how many shared connections you have. So by connecting to me, you have almost 9,000 more shared connection opportunities. Also, your location. So you're all here in Melbourne, but if you want to go and work in Sydney or New York, you have to change your location to that location, even if you're not there now. Because why would you come up in New York search results if you say you live in Melbourne? It's not going to happen. So you can put your location as New York, and in your address box you can say currently living in Melbourne, transferring to New York, you know, once the opportunity arises or whatever. Related fields. So if the fields that you have got your keywords, and then in other fields it's the same keywords, and it's picking that up, then it's also going to help the database find you, and also the categories that you have indicated are your interests. You know, it's going to sort them. So your skills and endorsements, that section is going to sort you. Sometimes the organisations and the profile of those organisations, has it got more than 500 staff? All of these sorts of things are going to help you be found on LinkedIn, but also on Google. If you optimise your LinkedIn profile well enough, you can get your LinkedIn profile to come up on the first page of search results. So if you type in LinkedIn consultant Melbourne or something, I think my LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn specialist Melbourne, and it will come up. I won't do it on my computer because it will look like I've rigged it because it's got my own IP address. If you do it on your own computer, you should find me. So now what I want you to do is I want you to find someone else in the room. I told you you're going to meet at least 3 people through this exercise. You're going to find somebody else in the room. We now know that there's an even number of people, so nobody will left on their own. And I want you to describe the last 2 changes that you have made for your LinkedIn profile. So for the 2 people who don't have a LinkedIn profile, you can just have a nice little chat. But I want the rest of you to describe the last 2 things you've done on your LinkedIn profile. Okay, the last 2 changes you made. Yep.
Do you mind repeating 5 and 6 in those searchability terms?
Yep, it was summary and experience.
Thank you.
All right, so pick someone else in the room. Just think about it. Like change your change your headline, something that's in the summary. It doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't have to be accurate. I'm just trying to get the point of what have you changed recently.
And we think
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, if you'd like to take something unique that somebody told them about what they've changed recently on their LinkedIn profile?
Sorry, say that again, please.
Would somebody like to share what's something unusual they've recently changed on their LinkedIn profile? Something special that they think was going to work well. Paul, anything you think is going to make a difference to your performance on LinkedIn? Yeah?
Just simply found got a new job.
You got a new job, so you updated that?
Yep.
Fantastic. Did you describe the organisation that you're now going to be working for?
Yes, I did. It's the name of the company. I put it there. So
Yes.
the company that I work with.
Yes.
So it's called Antarctica Architecture.
Right. And did they have a company profile that appeared on the right-hand side when you typed their name in?
No, unfortunately they don't have it.
So they don't have a company profile?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you describe the nature of that business in your LinkedIn profile?
No, I didn't describe it.
Right.
Just
Because if I look at your profile now, and this is not a criticism, you didn't know them any better, so I'm just trying to help you explain. So what you'll notice with each of my jobs on my LinkedIn profile, and I do a lot of different things, is I describe the organisation. So here, last night when I put on RMIT training, I had to find out when it was established. That took me a little bit of digging, 1986. And it's a vibrant innovative company associated with RMIT University, blah, blah, blah. So that way, even though there's no company profile, in your case, you can describe what the company's about. So when I look at your profile, I can then say, oh, so that's what they do. I'm not going to be able to guess it from the name. What I've also included is tasks, so not many at this point, because I'm only just going to do a course here and a course there. Achievement, I conducted a free LinkedIn, well, I was a bit premature, but I'm doing it now, so that's okay. And then I've got the contact details. Now, you might say, well, what on earth is the point of putting the link in there? Because it's not clickable, right? Because it's on a computer, a laptop or a desktop, it's not clickable. But if you were looking at my profile on a mobile phone, that would be a clickable link, and you could go straight through. So if you think about this for your business, somebody's looking at your LinkedIn profile on a mobile phone, they can click there, go straight through to your website. Now, from a search engine optimization perspective, I don't believe it's a follow link, but any link's better than no link as far as I can tell. So definitely I encourage that. So well done, new job on. Anybody else done a recent update they'd like to share with Greg? Don't be shy. Don't be nice.
I created a company page for my LinkedIn, for my business.
Yes.
And it's in LinkedIn.
Yes.
And on my desktop, it's all connected.
Yes.
But on the iPad, on the app, I can't seem to see it, and my logo doesn't come up next to my business name and my profile, my personal profile.
Okay, so what that means is when you started typing the name of your company into your personal profile, you did not select it from the drop-down box. That's all that means.
Okay.
Now, what happens also on the company profile is they give you recommendations for the size of the logo. So if your logo wasn't that size and it has to convert it to the mobile experience, it may not make it look equally the same. So likewise, on my banner up the top, my background picture, you can see I've just got a wallpaper colour, which is a colour from my suit jacket. So it's nice and plain and simple, so that when it scrolls short on a mobile phone or when it goes wide on a big screen, it still looks consistent. Some people like to put text and logos and all that kind of thing, but it looks crappy when you go down to the mobile phone version. So I'm always looking at what looks the smartest, reflects my personality, and that kind of thing. So if you had a nice wallpaper logo that you could put in small and make it like a wallpaper, that would be fine, because shrunk down on a mobile phone, that would be okay. But if you have half the logo over here and it's shrunk and then you'll get a quarter of it on the mobile phone, that's just going to look untidy. So yeah, it could put on you, and just go back and select it from the drop-down box, and then the logo will appear on your LinkedIn profile. One more? Okay.
I recently was married, and so I updated my name
Yes.
on there, but I was speaking to Zach, and she said that probably best to include my maiden name on there as well.
Yes.
Because old work colleagues might not be able to find it.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And you can do that by putting it in here. So form a name. Yeah. So you can put your maiden name there and then your last name in the new spot. Then you'll be found for both.
Right.
Yeah. One more?
While we were talking about images, you were saying about the different images and the responsiveness and so on. It recommends for publishing articles the image pixels of 700 by 400. So when you then go on a news feed, is that one of those irritating ones where you have to click it for it to actually show you the full image? Or if you do it 700 by 400, is it neatly embedded into the feed?
Okay. Well, again, that's going to depend on the device, as well as the browser, as well as the platform. So I'm going to give you the short answer of, I don't know. You know, in theory it would be better, but I found even with my themes on WordPress, I can set it at this and then it shows us something else, you know. So things vary all the time. So what I would suggest though is that you have the main component of whatever you want people to really, really see in the middle of the photograph. So if it's chopped off on either side. So what you'll notice on my posts is if you look at the post that I've written, you'll see that I put text over my photo, and you'll see that the text is in most cases in the middle of that portrait, that landscape image.
Because you've found sometimes when you've looked on various different devices, the feed looks different.
Correct. Now, social media likes pictures to be a minimum of 200 by 200. Google is about 400 by 400. So, yeah, I would normally recommend 400 at least wide, because then you're going to get reasonable resolution on it.
So it doesn't matter if you don't do 700 wide.
I would suggest that you put 700 on LinkedIn.
When that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, cool.
Okay, but if you're just doing social media in general,
Yeah.
say you want to have a standard for your style guide for your website, I'd say about 400.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's fine. Although I do normally have them 300 because they're a bit slower resolution. Anyway, whatever you do, be consistent.
Yeah.
All right, we need to move on. But thank you for the questions, they're really great. Okay. So the whole reason I got you to do that particular exercise is I want you to think about algorithms. And algorithms are the word that you're going to just hear more and more and more. They're basically sophisticated mathematical equations that are going to try and produce the best search results. So just as when you type in something to Google, it tries to produce the best result for you, the same thing is happening on LinkedIn. All of the platforms have their own versions of algorithms. They're never going to tell you exactly how those algorithms work, because they're going to be constantly changing and they're going to be constantly trying to improve your user experience, your search results, and get rid of the annoying people. So I saw a post on LinkedIn recently called Spammed-in instead of LinkedIn, you know, because there's this terrible habit of people to connect with you and then try and sell you something, you know. So LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to report that behaviour. And if that happens to you, I really encourage you to report it. If anybody does anything naughty with me, I report them immediately. The other day, a guy contacted me and said, I'd like to endorse you for any skills you like. In return, could you please endorse me? So first of all, I reported him. Then I went back to him and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I've never met you and I've reported you. And he writes back to me, well, that's not very nice. You know, you shouldn't have done that. And I said, well, it's behaviour like this that is ruining the platform. I said, I haven't publicly reviewed you on Google, you know, and if it's a first offence, there won't be any drama, but I want to make it clear that behaviour is not acceptable, because if you start being naughty on LinkedIn, it ruins the platform for everybody, and then we all lose the benefit of it. So these algorithms are good for detecting bad behaviour, but they can also be used to your advantage. So if you are currently doing things all the time, you know, logging in at least once a week and doing something, there's currency with your profile. So, you know, one person came up to me and said, I don't remember what I last did because it was so long ago. What I'm saying is, if you want to use LinkedIn, you need to be on there on a semi-frequent basis. You also need to have recent content. So as soon as you get your job, update it. If the job changes, update it. You know, do something. Make sure it's relevant. So in my job descriptions, because I want to focus on LinkedIn training, I've actually included the word training in most of my jobs where I've actually done training, because I'm optimising it for that. So I'm making sure that my content is relevant, and I'm updating it. If I change my mind and say, no, I just want to do consulting, I would change the words of that, provided it was true, of course. Needs to be consistent. So you'll see in mine, all the jobs are written pretty much the same way. Or if they're a business activity, I include on my social media profiles. Relatedness. So what is here is related to that, and I try and connect as many things as I possibly can. How active am I? Well, I log on every day. I do the reverse stalking. I do a little bit of a look at my news feed. I don't bother with groups. You know, I've given up on groups. They keep changing the algorithms so frequently. They're not that effective anymore. In fact, they're They're obviously not working because Ruby Connection, which is the women's network with Westpac, they've actually said they're closing their group and just going to a showcase page. So, you know, there's definitely indications that groups are not as effective as they used to be. And then, you know, your performance. Do you respond as soon as somebody contacts you? That stuff is being measured by the algorithms. Do you like, comment and share content? What content do you actually like, comment and share? And that's more tied to our next topic. So your last exercise, and we need to be quick, is to another person in the room, maybe swap sides and, you know, try and get someone from the other side of the room. I want you to describe one good thing that has happened as a result of you having a LinkedIn profile and why you think that happened. And if nothing good's happened yet, because, you know, you didn't know what you're going to learn today, I want you to think of something you would like to happen on LinkedIn and share that with another person in the room. Okay? Away you go. Find someone else.
Hi. So what's one good
Yeah.
we like to share amazing stories of what's happened to them via LinkedIn so far. Has anybody got a good story about what's happened to them on LinkedIn? Anybody got a good story? There's lots of you here. One of you must have a good story.
So what's your ask?
Yes? What's one good thing that's happened as a result of you having your LinkedIn profile?
I just saying that I had a referral come through for a client.
Yes?
Someone was looking for our product,
Yes?
and our client uses that product.
Yes.
And they saw the conversation and said you should contact Peter and his group and
Yes.
his company. Endorsed our product and
And you got the business.
we didn't get it, but it was just the fact that
You got the
the
referral.
referral, and
Right.
that's the intent that we're trying to get out there. So the
Good.
referral base, and we're still in progress.
Yes.
So, but just the networking,
Yes.
to show that if you put it out there.
Yeah, definitely can work for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, good. Thank you, Peter. Yes.
I'll put a case up to say I'm not a big LinkedIn user.
Right.
However, prior to or after a major meeting,
Yes.
negotiating some kind of deal, the LinkedIn activity goes up. So
Yes.
people are looking at the profile, they
They
have
are.
no idea who they are.
Yes.
They have no idea what they're searching for. But I know that the parties
They're
that
look-
we're
they're checking you out.
negotiating with are taking interest either before or after. So that's a really good thing to frame.
To be aware of too, yes. And to make sure it's as good as it can be all the time, because you just never know when somebody's going to, check you out. Yep.
Well, Lauren and I were saying that it's been a very interesting platform in terms of getting you in front of recruiters,
Yes,
because you do get approached, and those approaches often end in interviews.
they do.
Unlike the reverse, where you're going on to Seek and doing a scattergun approach of applying or desperately hoping to hear back.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the power to control your own online resume and to attract attention that way,
It is.
and to be sought.
And less than 10% of jobs are actually even advertised now, because why would you write an ad, publish an ad, wait for 300 crappy resumes, and then sort through them? It's much easier to do a search on LinkedIn and find the person you're looking for. And that's what the recruiters do. They're paying LinkedIn Recruiter $15,000 a year to have access to all of those profiles. So yeah, really
Is LinkedIn a recruiter another product of theirs?
Yes, yeah. So it gives you more searches, more findability and so on. I'd like to share you one other little story that happened recently. So tonight at 6 o'clock I'm going to be at General Assembly running a workshop on LinkedIn for startups and entrepreneurs. So if you go on the General Assembly website and you want to hear that version of events, you can come there tonight. But this guy wrote to me and I got really excited. And I said, will you please write that as a recommendation on my LinkedIn profile? So here's something that happened to Greg, okay? So he came along to the workshop. I attended Sue's class on LinkedIn for Startups at General Assembly about 6 weeks ago. I immediately put her advice into action, and within that time my network has grown by 670%. My profile views over 90 days have gone up by 1,400%. I'm now being canvassed for about 3 to 5 jobs per day. I've caught up with at least 20 new people I've met through LinkedIn just for coffee and to share ideas. I also chatted to many like-minded individuals through LinkedIn, both here and across the globe. It's incredible. I've become a networking machine, and all thanks to Sue. I just wanted to pass that feedback on, and Sue's had a profound impact on my career, Greg. And I didn't pay him 1 cent for that review, right? So really, really exciting. So these things are achievable. And I'm really pleased to hear Peter's in for the long haul. Most digital strategies will take at least 6 months to really kick in. This guy happened a bit quicker. The problem he has now is he doesn't want 3 to 5 contacts per day. He needs to change his content again and eliminate the tire kickers, because he doesn't want those gigs. He wants a right gig, so he can change his content again and again make it work for him. So don't underestimate the power of what can happen.
What good is in connecting to people we don't know?
Right. You increase your number of potential shared connections. So one of the main criteria for a search result is how many shared connections you have with the person who's doing that search.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm connected to loads and loads of LinkedIn trainers in Melbourne, I'm more likely to come up in search results because I'm connected to all those people already. So it's different to the old way of doing business where you kept all your cards close to the chest. You're actually better off connecting with your competitors on LinkedIn, as weird as that sounds. Okay, we shall keep moving. I've got lots to get through. All right, so basically what I'm trying to help you understand here is the concept of behaviour. So in the past, a lot of things were based on demographics. I'm a 51-year-old woman living in Canterbury with a professional background, blah, blah. That's my demographic. But my reality is based on my behaviour. What's going to happen to me online is going to be dependent on what things I do. So which profiles do I visit? What things do I like? What do I comment on? What do I share? Who do I connect with? What content do I produce? Who do I follow? All of those are signals to say, well, you know, Sue must be in this particular area, therefore we'll put Sue up for that type of search result. So when I was doing some work at Holden, I started connecting to a whole bunch of automotive engineers, and my news feed changed, and I started getting, you know, articles on car batteries, you know. So it's measuring what you're doing all the time and trying to create the user experience based on your behaviour. So your signals that you send out, what you actually do, is going to affect your performance and increase your ability to come up in particular search results. So think about it. Also, before you like, comment or share anything, even if I wrote it, and it would definitely be fabulous, of course, there could be something wrong in it, you know, and you might not like it. So please read it in its entirety before you like, comment or share it. You know, don't just go crazy. And don't be a try-hard. You know, there's too many people who post every day. And it's a jolly nuisance. We get sick of it, you know, as Australians. I mean, enough already, you know. Once or twice a week is more than enough. So, good behaviour. Some things that are recognised as good behaviour on LinkedIn, complete your profile in full. I mean, that is number one, basic LinkedIn, please do it. Number two, choose an ethical strategy and carry it out. What's the point of having a strategy if you don't take any action? Be responsive to comments and shares. Now, every time somebody likes something I've written, I don't say, thanks for the like, you know, I'd really look like a try-hard. But if they comment, and particularly if they share it, I'm definitely going to respond to that. And every share that I get notified about, I look at the share, I like the share, and I comment on it, thanks for sharing, Mary, or, you know, whatever it is. And messages, you know, as soon as I get a message in, I try and respond within 24 hours. I also tell people to get stuff sometimes too, you know, because, you know, I get these inquiries. I mean, some woman in India asked me to find a job for her son. I said, look, I'm sorry, I don't work with mothers, I work with people, you know. Oh no, but you can come and stay here and we feed you. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't do that. You know, anyway, so I have to be firm sometimes, but I do still respond. You know, I don't just ignore her. You know, she's very proactive. My goodness, no wonder her son probably wants to leave. Anyway, another story. You can contribute your own content, but if you're not comfortable with writing, and of course I am, but if you're not, you can curate content. So you can look at other people's content and share that. Even if somebody else wins an award in your industry, congratulate them. How cool is it that they won the award? They must have done something amazing. And they're going to remember you as that nice person who acknowledged my success. You know, there's a terrible tall poppy syndrome in Australia where we don't acknowledge achievement. And wouldn't it be nice if we did start to acknowledge our peers and, you know, recognise their good efforts? You must also add value. So if you work with somebody and it's worth endorsing them, please do so. And write recommendations. Your profile is much more likely to come up in search results if you've written at least, received at least 6 recommendations. So why not recommend a few other people? Because when you recommend someone else, whose name ends up on their profile? Yours. So, you know, your name appears, you know, in their details. So every time somebody looks at my profile now, they'll see Greg's profile, you know, because he wrote that recommendation for me. Also, remember to build your relationships. So it's one thing to connect with people, but if there's a particular person that constantly gives you referrals, constantly recommends you, constantly, you know, says, well done. Catherine's known me for how many years is it now? I didn't even recognise you when you walked in because it was out of context, but how many?
I don't know,
10 or 15 years, yeah. And so, you know, if there's another guy who regularly refers people to me, I make an effort to invite him out for coffee, to, you know, give him my latest book. You know, I do that because he's very important to my business and I should follow up. And you can do that on LinkedIn. There's a little CRM system within it. It's pretty basic. But, now, in fact, what I'll do, are you happy for me to put your details up, Catherine?
Sure.
R-Y-N though, isn't it?
No, ER.
Oh.
MC.
Here we go. Okay, so here's Catherine, my connections. So what I can do is, under relationship, I can write a note about how we met. Newcomers Network. A long time ago. Alright, I can set up a reminder, follow up in a week, a month, or every so often, 3 months, 6 months, every year. I can also tag her as a VIP, etc., etc. And then I've got that little reminder to maintain my relationship with my VIP referrers and special people, you know, in my
I
network.
just discovered that feature and it's really great.
Yeah. The best thing about LinkedIn is it's one database that stays up to date. Any business database that gets obsolete real quick, whereas people generally update their LinkedIn profile, so you can still reach out to people. So there are now Google browser extensions that will import information from LinkedIn into Salesforce. So if anybody wants that, just let me know. But yeah, there's more information.
With their relationship feature, does the public actually see that?
No.
Or that's just meant for yourself, right?
For you. Yep. Okay, moving on. Now, bad behaviour. Are there any bad people in the room here? No. None of you is bad. One of my clients was caught out for corporate fraud in Sydney and been in jail, so it was interesting working with him. But he's still working now, you know, he's getting paid a lot of money, and he declares his bad history. He's written in my third book. So anyway, spam sales messages. You're going to kill it. You're not going to get business out of it, so just don't even bother attempting to do it. It's just not worth your while. People in Australia are happy to be asked for information. They are not happy to be sold to. So please do not do it. I also do not believe in any scripts. There are some LinkedIn trainers who say if you do this and then this and then this, you will get this. I disagree with that immediately. You know, most of us can see straight through those standard scripts. Even if it says, oh, I've got this fabulous white paper I thought you'd like to download, you know, so what? You know, it's not personal. It's really not. In fact, I was really disappointed because there was a LinkedIn person in Brisbane who contacted, or who I heard on a webinar recently, so I connected with him, and then I got this, oh, I just donated to some special charity, and then for the next 3 days, he's never even met me. Obviously his virtual assistant started endorsing me for all these skills. He's never met me. Why did he start endorsing me for all these skills? And he did it not just all of them in one day, but he did one on day 1 and one on day, you know, a whole bunch on day 3 and another bunch on day 5. And I thought, what? Did you not even look at my LinkedIn profile? Do you not understand what you're doing? You know, it was just ridiculous. And it really, he lost all credibility, unfortunately, with me. But anyway, don't do it. False endorsements. As I told you that story before, don't endorse people for something just to try and, you know, be noticed by them. Only endorse them for what they're actually good at. No lying of any sort, but I do believe in massaging the message. So if you do end up in jail, I'm sure none of you will, but what you can do is, instead of saying I was in jail, you can say the holding company, and you can say I learned how to cook, and I did these courses, and that's what you were doing. Because, you know, you've done the time, done the crime, done the time, you still need an opportunity to work, so you can massage the message, but please, no lying. Don't make any unrealistic requests like that Indian mother did, or demands. You know, she insisted that I come and visit her, and no, I'm not going to. And any form of negativity. I do not believe, you know, even if somebody was rude and abusive to me, I will not respond in a negative way, even if I was right. I'll apologise. I say, look, I'm sorry for any confusion, you know, it wasn't my intention. I do all of that. There is, under no circumstances, even if I'm right, will I be negative online at all. Just won't do it. Because it makes you look petty. That's basically the reason for that. So, if you want to build your personal brand, after all, this workshop is LinkedIn for you and your business. So, you need to be authentic. You shouldn't be selling. You need to be considerate and think about solutions. So, if somebody asks a question and you've got a solution, go for it. Don't criticise them for it. Be helpful. Share things if you'd like. Be accountable and be aware of perceptions. So, this person who posts, you know, I post every day, that perception that that person is creating is negative, you know. Why are they on LinkedIn every day? Shouldn't they be out doing their business? You know, it just doesn't look good. So you've got to think about your perceptions. If somebody does refer someone to you, follow up to them. So that guy who referred,
Yeah.
I hope you went back to him and said, you know, thanks, we really appreciate it. We know it didn't lead to any work, but it was fantastic that you thought of us. You know.
No, he's a VIP.
He's a VIP, perfect. So always say thank you. Be proactive too, because LinkedIn is always changing. So I even suggest, you know, at least every 6 months, click on all the menus and see what's changed. You know, is there some other box you should have filled in by now? And seek professional advice if necessary. You know, some organisations that you work for have compliance issues and you're not allowed to necessarily put information on. So for instance, the Gordon TAFE down at Geelong has got a number of employees who don't work there anymore, but they're still saying that they worked at the Gordon, which is not a good thing. So, you know, they're going to have to change their social media policy to say when you leave the company, you've got to, you know, finish off, you know, you have to have that written in the social media policy of your business if you're going to be having people in. You can actually get people in your business to help promote it. For the business, now you mentioned about logos, good quality logos. So that designer is going to make fantastic logos for you. If you connect with them, they might be able to help you with that. A fantastic description with keywords. So you've got 2,000 characters, use them. You know, don't just do the short version. If you've got 2,000 characters, fill it all in. All of the specialties, because you can list lots of specialties in your business, so you can tick off all those boxes. I also suggest, unless you're a sole practitioner, if you're part of a larger business, that you have more than one administrator. Because if somebody's away or somebody's sick, nobody can respond. So definitely have more than one. You can't set up a company profile with a Gmail email address either. It has to be an email address at your business website. Employees, make sure that they link to you, make sure they follow you, encourage them to share your content, link your company profile to your website, put it on your company website that you've got a company profile on LinkedIn, and have a style guide for all of your content. So as you were saying before about images, are all of our articles going to have an image? What's the format of that image going to be? Is it a paid stock photo? Is it a free photo? Is it a photo we took ourselves? Does it have text over it? What text format is it? What font is it? What colour is it? You know, you need to think about those things. And if you want specific steps, you can look at that article on how to maximise your company profile on LinkedIn. You could also follow relevant companies. So, you know, I obviously follow all of the professional associations that I'm a member of, all their company profiles on LinkedIn. I follow them. You could choose to participate in relevant groups, but unless it's a really active group, as I said, I haven't found a lot of value in groups more recently. You need to keep up your level of online activity and utilise external resources and reviews, because that will definitely help. Google reviews are gold. So if you haven't got a Google My Business page, please definitely consider getting that as soon as possible. Respond appropriately whenever you do get feedback, and be aware of the business perception, not just your personal perception, but, you know, I went to a function where the head of Twitter in Australia was speaking, and she said if the CEO of Telstra puts out on his Twitter account that, you know, everything's great at Telstra, the stock price goes up. So you might actually be better having the CEO share something on their personal profile and then just having it also included in the company update. But if you only had it on the company page, you know, not many people are going to see it unless they're following and they check the news feed that day. So, you know, it's very different. And also choose your overall enterprise strategy. So, like everything, how do you measure your return on investment? You know, yeah.
Sorry, so the question is just like you feel that people will follow an individual more so than a company.
Correct.
For authentic information.
Yes. Yes. So if you're the owner of the business, put it out under your name. You know, that's really valuable, but still put it out on the company profile as well. Because if I'm investigating your company and there's been nothing happen on the company profile for 6 months, I'm going to say these guys don't know what they're doing. So although it's not going to be as effective at reaching people, it's an important part of the due diligence verification process. So I would suggest your company profile should have an update at least once a month.
What about posting it on your company profile and sharing it on your personal profile?
Correct. And also getting all your employees to share it on their profiles, you know, within the same week. And to like, comment and share. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So you can have that as part of your social media policy. When you join our team, we want you to do this, this and this. We want you to write your job up like that. When the CEO puts something out, we encourage you. You can't say you must.
We encourage you to like, comment and share. We'll send out an email to let you all know. This will be the link, because you can get a link to that actual item, and then people can like, comment and share from there. Yeah, very effective strategy. All right, your stats. So, what stats are you going to measure? How many views you're getting per 90 days? So if you decide to get somebody in to come in and update everybody's profiles, you say, right, before we updated them, we were all getting this many views. After we updated them, we got this many views, just like Greg did. How many followers do you have on your company page? If you want to create a digital asset and sell your business at some future point, and you've got 65,000 followers, that's worth something. You know, so keep the record. We started off with 30 today, 6 months' time, we end up with 362, and so on. And keep that record so that you can show the accountant, this is what we've built up. We didn't buy them from Pakistan last night, they've actually been built up over time. How many connections everybody in the business has got? How many group members if you're running a group? These are all statistics that you can easily collect from LinkedIn. The interaction, likes, comments on your content, but shares give the biggest brownie points. So if you can encourage people not just to like and comment, but to actually share, that's going to help much more. Updates on posts, how many views? I mean, if you Google professional leadership LinkedIn, now this is a unique one, not all of my articles are as good as this. I'm after the ad, #1, page 1 of Google, and that article was written in 2014. So Google, it's even beating the LinkedIn blog and an article that was published after. Because obviously Google has measured this, and when people click on that, they stay long enough, they don't bounce, they get the information, they interact with it, they do something with it. So Google's saying this is good quality content, we'll keep it #1, page 1 of Google search results. And I update it every so often too, so I'm trying to keep it there under that. People also ask, all sorts of things there. Have you learnt a few things today? Got your money's worth? Or your time worth? See, your time is just as important as your dollars. And if I'm pinching your time, I want to give you value. All right, your rank. So you can see how you rank compared to all of your other connections if you go to that link. You can also get a social something index rating, which says how do you perform socially compared to somebody else. So if you check that today, just start working on your LinkedIn profile, check it in a month's time, you'll see it go up. How many endorsements you've got, how many recommendations you've got, and please, don't just aim for traffic, aim for conversions. If you're starting to attract the people who ring you up and book you, you know you're doing the right thing. Questions and examples. Far away. Let me see. Oh my goodness, it's 5:02. I'll come back to that. Upcoming events. First of all, the LinkedIn Masterclass for Professionals. On Friday the 7th of October, I'll be back here from 9:30 to 1:30, not in this room, and you can come along to a 4-hour workshop designed for professionals. So it's not designed for business, it's designed if you're in a professional career, but will still be suitable if you're, the main service provider within a business. And it includes a copy of my first 2 books, 120 Ways to Achieve Your Purpose with LinkedIn and 120 Ways to Attract the Right Career or Business. So you're most welcome to come along to that. The next thing is I'm running some 2-hour workshops in Canterbury on the 6th of September and the 13th of September. So if you book before tomorrow, it's $70 for 2 hours, and there'll be a maximum of 5 people in that workshop. So you do need to book by tomorrow, otherwise it's $90. It's called the LinkedIn Profile Polisher, and you get 2 books. So you basically get the workshop for free. So, and you'll get the 2 books. So if you want to come along to that, you'd be most welcome as well. The next thing is there is loads and loads of free information on my website. So for the people who don't want to spend any money but they still want help, there's plenty of it. SueEllson.com/publications, and on my presentations. So it goes right back to 2001, different presentations I've done. There's lots of videos, there's lots of audio recordings, PowerPoint slides, photographs, and so on. And of course, RMIT here has a whole bunch of other short courses that you can have a look at, and you can definitely check out those as well. Now, I told you I will give you a way to say thank you. Now, here are at least 5 ways you can do it. You can send one email to 3 people. You can send it to the short courses here at RMIT to say thanks for giving us the venue. You can say to me for whatever tip you found useful. And you can say thank you to the festival, because the Business Festival is an amazing resource for business. I went on a tour of the port on Thursday last week. It was fantastic. Free boat tour. You know, I've done all sorts of workshops, webinars and everything as part of the Small Business Festival. And I think the Victorian Government should be acknowledged for, you know, actually making this possible to us as business owners, because where else do you get that much free information? I mean, it's unbelievable. You can Google my name and write me a Google review. That means that every time somebody looks at my reviews, they see your name. So that can be a strategic tool for you. And you can also connect to me on LinkedIn and write a recommendation under RMIT training. And then the next time you're in a workshop, I can put your profile up and say, so-and-so said this about me. So, as I said, if you've registered for this event online on Eventbrite, you'll automatically get this information. But if you didn't register on Eventbrite, if you just leave your details with me, I'll invite you to connect on LinkedIn. I'll send you a copy of the top 20 tips from my first 2 books, and also the link to the audio and video photos for this event. So that's the official part done. Now, I'm happy to stay here. My next event is not till 3 o'clock this afternoon at Michael's Camera Store. So I'm happy to answer questions. Is there something that somebody from the group would like to share that's going to be something they can take home from today that they've learned, that they're going to implement? Because I really like hearing what you think you can actually implement and will work for you. Anyone going to think about? You're not going to do anything?
I just do everything you've said.
Yeah, do everything, great.
The relationships and the VIP tag.
VIP tag, excellent. Anything else somebody's going to take home and do? Yep.
Do my keywords.
Keywords, perfect. That's really, really important. It's going to help you focus. Yeah, one more?
Photo work straight away.
Photo?
Take straight away.
Oh, good.
I haven't connected onto the business page.
Yes, and it's worked. Perfect. Excellent. Wonderful. All right, so I'm happy to answer questions. If anybody's got to go, you're free to leave. Thank you for your participation. If you didn't get one before, there's a flyer there. You can help yourself to another chocolate, because I don't want them at my house, otherwise I eat them. Thank you for coming and being part of the Small Business Festival.